Hey guys, today we're going to be going over derivatives and we're going to be using the power rule to solve for derivatives of some functions. So let's start by going over what a derivative actually is. So a derivative gives you the slope of the tangent line. So see here. So let's say we have the graph y equals x squared. Let's make that better. Okay, there we go. So let's say we have the graph y equals x squared. So let's plot that really quick on our xy plane. That's y equals x squared. So the derivative gives us the slope of the line tangent to this graph at whatever x value we take. So let's say we take the x point right here. So the derivative at this x point would give us a slope of the tangent line to that point. And so this is what our derivative would give us, this line right here. Okay, so let's figure out how to solve some derivatives. So let's take our function f of x equals x squared. And to solve the derivative, we're going to be using the power rule. And let's start by writing the notation for a derivative. And that's basically just this apostrophe in between the f and the x, and that is a prime symbol. So we read this as f prime of x, and that means that we're going to be taking the derivative of f of x. So that's just how you write the notation for derivatives, and yeah. So the power rule is a rule we can use to calculate derivatives for any given function. So power stands for the exponent in our function. So we're going to be relying on the exponent in our function to find the derivative. So in this case, our exponent is 2 for f of x. So we're going to be relying on 2. So what the power rule says is that to take the derivative of a function, so let's take our function as f of x equals x squared. So with the power rule, to take the derivative of x squared, we're going to take our exponent, which is 2, and we're going to move it in the front and multiply. And then we're going to subtract it by 1. So we're going to end up with 2 times x to the 2 minus 1, which is the same thing as 2 times x to the first, which is 2 times x. So let's try that one more time. Let's take x squared, and with the power rule, we locate our exponent, we move it to the front, and then we subtract it by 1 up here. So we get 2 times x to the 2 minus 1, which is 2, x to the first, which is 2x. Okay, let's try another example. We have f of x equals 3x cubed now. And we want to find f prime of x, also known as our derivative of the function. So again, we're going to be using power rule to do this. And remember what power rule says is that we got to find our exponent on x, we got to move it to the front, and we got to subtract by 1. So this would give us 3 times 3x to the 3 minus 1. And this is the same thing as 9x squared. Let's try that one more time. We're going to be using power rule, which means we got to find our exponent, we got to move it to the front, and subtract by 1. So we have 3 times 3x to the 3 minus 1, which is the same thing as 9x squared. Super simple, right? Okay, so let's take another function, f of x equals x to the negative 2 this time. Now we have a negative exponent. Well, now how do we find the derivative of this function? Well, it's the exact same thing. We're just going to be using power rule, except this time our exponent is negative 2. So power rule says we take our exponent, we move it to the front, and subtract by 1. This means we're going to have negative 2 times x to the negative 2 minus 1. This is the same thing as negative 2 x to the negative 3. And that's our derivative right there. Okay, let's look at one more example. What if we had a function with more than just one term? So let's say we had 3x squared plus x cubed plus x to the negative 4. So how would we find the derivative of this? Well, we're going to be using power rule, and all we have to do is find the derivative of each term and add them up. So we go term by term, we take the derivative of each one, and we add them all up. So our first term is 3x squared. So we got to find the derivative of 3x squared. So using power rule, we take our exponent, move to the front, subtract by 1. This gives us 2 times 3x to the first power, so we get 6x. And that means our first term is 6x. So let's write our derivative equals 6x. And now we locate our second term, which is x cubed. And what power rule says is take the exponent on x cubed, move it to the front, subtract by 1. So this time we have 3x squared. So now we add our 3x squared. And we look at our last term, which is x to the fourth. What power rule says is we locate our exponent, move to the front, subtract by 1. So we have a negative 4x to the negative fifth power. So we just put that here. So we're going to add a negative 4x to the negative fifth power. So our derivative is just going to be 6x plus 3x squared minus 4x to the negative fifth. And that's all we have to do to find derivatives. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned how to use the power rule and apply them to derivatives. And I hope you learned what derivatives are. So yeah, if you have any suggestions for any other topics you would like us to teach on this channel, please leave them down in the comments below. And yeah, see you next time, Billionaires.